Is The Carpenter's Son the Jesus horror movie we've all been waiting for? Not really, but let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk to you about The Carpenter's Son, the quote-unquote Jesus horror movie that is coming to theaters, the US theaters on November 14th, 2025, and UK and Ireland on November 21st, 2025. It is a kind of like dark horror-ish film about, the upbringing of Jesus and him, like, I guess, coming into his own. There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of, like, tense moments. Is this movie worth your time? Is this movie worth watching? My hot take is I think you should pass on it. I think it's an interesting concept. Like, hey, why not? Why not have a Jesus horror movie? But it kind of feels a little bit too slow and angsty. It has some of the, like, biblical aspects, I guess, but it takes a very different turn. I appreciate the concept of it though. I think it's like interesting when things like this happen. I just didn't think that this came together very well. So I think you should ultimately pass on it. But all that being said, I'm gonna tell you about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a very, very, very quick recap. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off when I get to the recap. Before that though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in The Carpenter's Son, you have the story of Jesus, but not like how you've ever heard it before. This is kind of Jesus growing up, learning, I guess, more about his abilities, learning that he is, a little bit different, learning that maybe he sees things a little bit differently, and the effect that that might have in a Roman era time when they're worried about the devil and things like that. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, look, I like the idea, I like the concept. It's a cool idea, right? Like a horror type biblical film based on a story that a lot of people know, but in a very different angle. I thought it was an interesting concept. I liked the idea behind it. When I saw this, I was like, awesome. I can't wait to watch it. I just didn't really live up to my expectations. Second thing I like the cast. I mean, you got Nick Cage as Joseph. Great. You got Noah Jupe as Jesus. You got I'm gonna not be able to pronounce your name. It's FK Twigs. I'm not 100% sure, but you got a great cast for me, and they all play very interesting roles. And the last thing I loved, I like the practical effects. It's a mix of practical and CG. I liked when it went on the practical side. You got some, good practical effects when you see like crucifixions and things like that. You've got some good practical effects with like blood and sores and stuff like that. So overall, like the majority of the effects are practical. I thought they were really, really good. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. It's a little slow. Like it is a lot of like internal conflict, a lot of like temptation, which I guess makes sense in like the biblical context, but doesn't make for a very, very interesting movie. Second thing I didn't like about this, it's a bit angsty. A lot of this feels like maybe Jesus's teenage angst coming through. So take that for what you will. It feels emotional at times. It feels a little silly at times, but I guess that's what teenagers are like. So here we go. And the last thing I didn't love as much, some of the CG effects. There's not a ton. Like I said, it veers more on the practical side, but there's a decent amount of CG effect. There's some important pivotal CG effects that just don't look that good. And the last thing I said last thing, but this is the other one. The last thing I didn't love, it's just not scary. I heard Jesus horror. I was like, this is gonna be cool. Can't wait. It's not that scary. I mean, I guess maybe I don't know how they would have made it more scary. Kind of know the basic story of Jesus, but it wasn't a movie that kind of put me on edge, which is always a bad thing for a horror movie. So, all that being said, The Carpenter's Son comes to US theaters on November 14th, 2025, and UK and Ireland theaters on November 21st, 2025. Like I said, I think you should probably pass on it, but if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Maybe you like the story more than I do. Maybe you are more interested in this than I am, but if you do like it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear. I'm gonna really, really quickly go into a recap. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So, the basic story. So the movie starts with the birth of Jesus, and this is in a very bad time because the king is worried about the savior coming, I guess, and so there's a very pivotal scene where the soldier is checking to see if there's babies and killing them. Now I think Joseph is carrying the baby in this scene, so they check Mary, she doesn't have one, and they let him through. Another miracle, great. Now, Jesus eventually grows up and he gets into like his teenage years. And his dad, Joseph, is like an overbearing religious father. He's very devout, very kind of like has a bunch of rules, kind of your strict conservative-ish or your strict like religious dad, doesn't want his kid doing things, doesn't want his kid like interacting with certain people. That doesn't play well with Jesus, who is now becoming a teen, wanting to kind of explore, wanting to become, his own person. So he shows an aptitude early on for, religious things. He is able, he starts learning from a rabbi, but then the rabbi stops teaching him because Jesus knew things that the rabbi didn't, or that he shouldn't have known, making them think that maybe he's got like a little bit of the devil in him, that kind of stuff. His father seems to be afraid of this. I think he's afraid that they're going to like hurt his son because of how they grew up, right? Like they grew up when there was a fear of this savior coming. So I think his dad is like very concerned about Jesus sticking out. Eventually he meets a mysterious girl who seems to be pushing him to like into bad things, like he's a teenager, he's gonna meet someone who's gonna have him participate in some bad influence, but this seems like a very bad influence. Now we find out later on, and this is a spoiler, big spoiler, that this is actually Satan. It's Satan kind of trying to tempt Jesus. Different story than in the Bible. He's not fasting for 40 days. Maybe he did. Maybe I didn't catch it. But this is Satan trying to tempt Jesus. But she seems to want to push him to discover more about his powers. Early on, they like see a leper. She says, "Oh, let's play a game where you put your hand as close as you can to the leper without touching him." And then when Jesus does it, she pushes him on the leper. So he touches the leper. Theoretically, he now has leprosy. Not good for him. That leper then heals himself and becomes like a very devout person, but kind of like a rambling person. He like talks about this person being divine. He like, I think, leaves an offering for Jesus, which doesn't work well for Joseph because he doesn't want people to know that Jesus is like, special. And so that causes some friction later on. Now, this mysterious girl also then tries, I think, to get him to use his healing powers because she possesses someone that's close to him. This woman named Lilith, this girl named Lilith, who he seems to have a crush on. Lilith becomes like sick. She gets some boils. She like bites her mother's face, and so I think Satan is trying to push Jesus to use his powers to show, that what he can do, maybe to like bring him out of hiding. Now, eventually, Jesus does have to use his powers because Lilith is dying, and so he reaches into her mouth and pulls out a snake. And this is a CG snake. I mean, I guess a practical snake would have been tough, but they could have done something. But he pulls out a snake and hurls it, healing Lilith, but also showing what he can do in front of all these people. Now, after this, the mysterious girl also tries to get him to understand that his father is not who he thinks he is. He said she tells him that his father is not his father, like as is Joseph is not his father. And Jesus then goes to his mother, who confirms this. Now there is also a little bit of a an infidelity thread here, where Joseph is concerned about who the father was. I mean, we all know the story. But Joseph, I don't think, can accept that, and so, or at least he's having trouble accepting it. So there's a little bit of that too. Now, after all of this, that mysterious girl then tries to get Jesus to see more. They like look into a stream, and then when he looks deeper into that stream, he sees like a portal to hell, and that's when this girl tells him who she is. Like she used to be close to his father, his real father, but his father was jealous, I think, and so sent her down to her own place, which is hell. And now she is trying to get Jesus to see that. I guess she's trying to tempt him here. And during this time, Joseph shows up and sees both of them by the pond, and she sees Satan for who he is. She doesn't look Satan doesn't look like a girl to him. It's like a skinny guy. And so when Satan realizes this, he approaches Joseph. We don't see an attack, but it seems like Satan then like curses him or hurts him because next time we see Joseph, after Jesus has been staring at this pond for a bit, Joseph is on the ground in pain. When Jesus sees this, he is upset, and that is when Satan stabs Joseph with like a staff or something like that. And that then then she tries to kill Jesus. She grabs Jesus. She like tries to drown him. Eventually, Jesus fights back, and he starts beating Satan up. So it's kind of cool, right? Like I guess it's kind of cool. Not really part of the Bible, but kind of cool. He's like beating Satan up. He's like tries to gouge Satan's eyes out, and that's when his father tells him to stop, says, "Don't do that, show pity." And so Jesus eventually stops, doesn't kill Satan. I don't know, maybe that wouldn't have been a bad thing, I guess, but I guess, I don't know. I feel like maybe that would have been okay. But he stops, he goes to see his father. His father is dying, and then his father eventually dies because he's been stabbed. That's not good. But when he dies, we see a little like saint halo around his head. So it seems like his father became a saint. And then after this, after we see this, we see Satan on the ground, in pain, but not dead. Jesus goes to see his mother, who earlier was dying from, it seemed like another curse. It seemed like maybe Satan cursed her because she had like, looked like she got like a snake bite, and like there was getting like blood and stuff on her. She seems healed. I guess she's healed now that Satan has been overcome, and Jesus goes up to her and they embrace. And that is the carpenter's son, like I said. I think you should pass on it, but you know what? If you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.